Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Hello, my name is Beazle. You might recognize me best from a certain Friday Night Funkin' mod. Today is December 23rd, 2024. Is there anything interesting about this particular day? Well, on this day, Madness was born. What is Madness? Mario's Madness. I know what you're thinking. When Mario comes to mind, you probably think of that Mario. This Mario, well, similar to that Mario in terms of appearance, is nothing like that Mario in terms of personality. I'm referring to Super Horror Mario, or M for short. But how did this come to be? Well, through these documents, we can tell you the secret history of M. In the 90s, Nintendo was attempting to crush Sega and their blue hedgehog. When they learned they got a famous composer, Nintendo intended to copy Sega. They called in a famous composer by the name of Darius, who partnered with the head composer of Nintendo at the time, called M. The two made a huge profit with this collaboration, and they got on good terms. But there's the thing. Darius, despite his name, isn't all that sweet. In fact, he was a demon, infamous for lying and disfection. Once he made enough money through their collab, he cut ties with Nintendo, sealed M inside a cartridge, and made fun of a fat guy. Who was M, you say? You might think it's Mario, right? I know that you know of a certain Friday Night Funkin' mod. Therefore, you think that M is short for Mario, right? Not really.
Then what's M short for then?
Mario's hat? Or more rather, what controlled his hat? An entity. Who is this entity? Well, it's not like we don't have info on that. Long ago, there once was a young boy who was rather smart, kind, and compositorin too. One day, he died a sad death, but was given another chance at life by a pair of entities. He accepted their offer and was reincarnated into an entity resembling a mortarboard hat. He was now Bartholomew. Bartholomew spent his new life hanging out with the other entities. They were rather friendly to him and got along with them. Unfortunately, it wouldn't last forever. One day, Bartholomew found a strange crystal, which, upon accidentally cracking it, sent him away to another dimension, one where he made a terrible mistake. He was deprived to his safety. So he possessed the body of a random person via disguising himself, unaware he was possessing the body of Nintendo's head composer. You know what happened next, right? After Darius cut ties with Nintendo, M chased after him to get his payment. That was when Darius sealed him inside the cartridge. Not the composer he was controlling, but the controller of the composer. Gotta be specific. Upon entering this strange domain, Bartholomew found himself face to face with its rulers, the super horrors. They consist of Peach, Luigi, and of course, Mario. They, alongside the inhabitants of this domain, tortured him over and over. Eventually, he suffered enough and attempted to seize control of SHM. He was successful, but the others found out and tried to stop him. But he easily wiped the floor by drowning SML and having SMP exhaled. This was Bartholomew's world now. With this world now under his control, Bartholomew wouldn't have to worry about anything ever again. At first. For starters, he tried talking to the inhabitants of this world, wanting to strike up a conversation. It worked for quite a good while, but as time passed by, he grew bored from hearing the inhabitants repeat over and over. At the same time, he began to lose his sanity, little by little. Eventually, he'd come to realize the inhabitants of this domain share one thing.
They're all in my game. They all belong to me.
Realizing that he was talking to himself the whole time was the last straw for Bartholomew, and thus become the very person he personated. Now, the super horrors had one thing in common: to see beyond their world. Even if one of them were to possess somehow, they'd still have that power. Not just to the super horror, though. Possessing super horror Mario, Bartholomew could use this ability to check on the one who excelled him to this hole. He learned that Darius retired, got married, and had a daughter who had a lovey-dovey boyfriend. Wanting revenge on Darius, he decided to take away his daughter. But how could he do it when he's trapped in a cartridge? That answer was quite simple, actually. Years after being trapped in the cartridge, a delivery company consisting of bizarrely colored astronauts in funny hats discovered that cartridge and decided to sell it. It took them a while, but eventually it found a buyer, Darius' daughter's boyfriend. Upon playing it, they were sucked inside the cartridge, where they'd meet their terrible and unrewindable fate at the hands of Bartholomew himself. Unfortunately, despite killing those two, he felt no satisfaction. Those two were the only human beings he saw in a long time. He even had fun with them, but killing them meant that he'd never play with them again. Bartholomew wanted vengeance against a demon who locked him away. Yet upon getting it, he questioned if it was worth it. Actually, it was, sort of. By killing those two, Bartholomew fell into a bitter depression and finally snapped out of his sanity, deciding to punish himself by unpossessing SMH so he could punish him. Soon, things were back the way they were, but Bartholomew could never be the same. Now, the cartridge responsible for everything that happened, is it still around? Well, who knows? Somewhere in the world, the cartridge could very well be somewhere, and whoever finds it would be unable to undo what had already been started. They become a victim of the super horrors.